Hey, everybody, we're here again for another episode of Career Journeys with Bloch School alumni. And I am super excited for our second episode today. We're talking a lot of cool things. And so I'm going to introduce our next guest. Please introduce yourself and talk to me a little bit about your role and what you do.
I am Nomundari Naranbataar. I am a finance director at Pushli, which is owned by V2 Ventures, where I have been for the past 8 years.
Awesome.
I graduated from UMKC as an international student in 2016 and again in 2018.
Awesome. And so what do you do in your current role now as a finance director?
So, as I was getting ready for this interview, I was thinking to myself, and I don't think there's anything that I don't do in this role right now, especially working for a startup. As a finance director, you're involved in hiring, recruiting, operations, launching a website, budgeting, analyzing the financials, pretty much in anything and everything. Yeah. If there's a meeting, I am in there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what do you love about it? Is there, obviously you're in finance, but you're on the startup side. So what are some of the things that you come to love about your job, whether it's being inside of the startup or some of the stuff that you do as a finance director? What brings you a lot of joy in your current role?
So I will say, to give you a background, like graduating from UMKC as an international student and looking for the opportunity to be um, sponsored for a work visa. Back when I graduated, there wasn't many opportunity for public accounting firms to do that. So I always felt really down for not being able to get into public accounting as soon as I graduated. But then now, as I look back at my career and reflect on all my experience, I am so thankful I ended up where I ended up because I did gain like lots of transferable skills throughout my career working for many startup companies, all owned by the same private equity firm. But not just accounting and finance related, I have been able to just touch everything and anything. And I probably know a little bit about anything about running an organization at this point. Yeah. So just like waking up and like not dealing with accounting month end process or annual tax preparation, I get to do like lots of things that an accountant at a public firm or a larger company wouldn't be able to do.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting too.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it sounds like you went the indirect route to get to something that you maybe didn't even know was where you wanted to be. And
Yeah.
so tell me about your journey. You were just sharing a little bit about it, but I think, as an international student and the pressures that you had to face are something that a lot of folks don't even have to. So it was another layer of difficulty for you. So tell me a little bit about your journey as an international student trying to, not only gain the skills, but to your point, you had to be presentable, pick up a work visa. You had to get all these things right. So tell me about how you, made it through that period of your life and some of the things you did to like, kind of face up to that adversity.
You know, honestly, I don't know how I did it, but I did it. Some of the things that really helped was just being able to ask questions and ask for help. I learned that skill like very early on, probably junior year of my undergrad when my mom passed away. And I just had to basically figure it out on my own. She was a single mom. And if you don't know anything about international students are billed a different rate for just being international student for
Yes.
tuition. And not only that, you're not allowed to work off campus during your studies. So that puts so much extra pressure on like financially just to be able to figure it out. But granted, when you apply for an international student visa, your parents or your guardians usually sign that form to say, hey, while the student is studying abroad, we will be supporting them fully financially so that they can focus on school. Yeah. Um, but when my mom passed away, when I was in junior year of undergrad, I just had to reach out to all my professors. I had to reach out to the dean of accounting, dean of Bloch school. I just had to just ask for help to make it through the last 2 years of my undergrad. And I'm really blessed, and a lot of people have been able to help me. So that's a very invaluable skill to have, is just to ask for help. Even now in my role, if I didn't know how to ask for help just with my time and just energy from my teammates, I would not be able to do anything that I do
Mhm,
day to day.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so you had to go through this really challenging time, both personally and building up yourself professionally. You asked for help, but not only that, you actually took advantage of the opportunity and succeeded despite all of those because, you're being very gracious in the sense that you said you asked for help, but you had to do the work still, right? And you did that work. And so what was that like in those moments when you went from your undergrad to your MBA and just getting your journey going, right? So you wanted to get into public accounting firm, but you didn't make it first. So talk to me about those steps like right out of school. How did you make your way into the real world and find yourself into this startup kind of, ecosystem?
Um, I also got lucky. I feel like I got lucky. So right after you graduate, as an international student, again, you only have a month. I don't know if that's changed since then, but when I graduated in 2016, you only have a month to find a full-time job that's gonna get you the work visa.
Right.
Otherwise, you will just have to move back and figure it out. And I was just so determined that I was gonna make it here. And within the first, well, I had been applying to full-time jobs, but like within the first 2 weeks of that whole month, I hadn't secured anything. I haven't got any interviews. So that was really stressful. Um, but the way I landed my first job at B2 Ventures was I went to one of the school events that they throw out and bring on all those experts that like they give talks to and talk about their experience and expertise in their industry. And I remember that one of the executives at the time actually just gave a talk at UMKC. So then I reached out to their HR director to say, hey, I actually know this person. But I bet you that person didn't even remember my name or even remember meeting me, because when you're on campus visiting and just giving speeches and meeting all the students, you're probably meeting at least 100 students. But I just had to do the name drop to say I know that person, and then I got my first interview right away.
That's a
Yeah.
classic, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I know so and so, and
Yeah.
it's such a great piece of advice that, people forget about. It's like, hey, make sure you connect to people based on your shared interests or shared, connections. So, well, I think that's really fascinating. And obviously you mentioned that made a lot of journeys from one startup to another startup. And, obviously, you said it was luck, but there was a lot of determination that you put in to get to that place. There's a lot of preparation that goes into getting lucky.
Thank you.
So talk to me about, the impact that you've been able to make now. You're an international student, you're getting to work in the startup ecosystem. You've worked with a lot of different teams. The finance is such an important piece of any startup, as most of us know that are in the space. So talk to me about the impact that you get to make at these startups, because if you're at a public accounting firm, not that your role isn't as important, but there's a lot of people and there's a lot of different roles and there's a lot of different competing high level priorities. But at a startup as a finance director, you're impressing and working on a lot of different things. So you get to make an impact on so many different elements of the business. So talk to me about how that feels, knowing that you get to really leverage and use your experience that you've gained personally and through your career and actually make an impact in your business. Like, how does that feel knowing that you've like came so far, you traveled all the way around the world, you've gotten your job, but now you didn't like getting the job wasn't the start, like the stop. It was the starting line.
Yeah.
So now you get to like do what you wanted to do. So what does that feel like? How does that feel
I am
to do that?
still in disbelief that like all this really smart and experienced individuals want to hear my opinion when they are about to make decision, and I'm their person to come to and say, hey, here's what I'm thinking, what do you think, where I then go back and do my own due diligence. um I'm also a CPA. Did get my CPA while I was working full time.
Mhm.
Not because my work was requiring it, just because I thought it would be really great skill to add on, just to be able to collaborate with the tax preparers and auditors and whoever you get to work with from the public accounting firms. Um, but as a CPA, you always want to do your own due diligence and do independent thinking and critical thinking. And now I get to use all those skills and just go back and do my own research, own analysis, and then be able to come back and say, actually, here's the supporting numbers behind the decision that I suggest you make.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, no, I have been in the industry for 8 years, but I'm like up to this date, like even when we do like a all hands team meeting where I get to just collaborate with all the smart, intelligent people, I'm still in disbelief to think to myself like, holy crap, I'm here and I'm like speaking a different language and I'm helping all these really smart individuals make decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, like, when you think back to the skills that you had to put together to get here, right? You had a lot of different things that you had to fight through, but like what are some of the skills or maybe the mindsets that you had to embody to actually get to that starting line and be successful in the space for so many
I'm
years?
so glad if you asked that because on the drive here, I was thinking there's only one message that I want to send out to anyone who is listening to this. It's to have a growth mindset. Even if you fail, even if you're not good at something, even if you don't know how to do certain things, just know that you will get there one day. Actually, like one of the best advice I've ever received is just so simple. You'll